Hi there, it's Mr. Smith, and in this video I'm going to go over our syllabus. So this is for DMAT0307, and it's linked with the BASM0053 course. Okay, so first of all, contacting your instructor, we typically get back within 24 hours. I'm actually usually much better than that. But if I'm real busy, on occasion, one will slip through. So please don't hesitate to email me again if you don't hear back within 24 hours. But that's very uncommon for me to miss one, but it does happen. Instructor information, my name is Scott Smith. My nickname is 1T, and that's because I only have 1T in my first name. You can call me Mr. Smith or 1T. If you want to call me Scott or Mr. Scott, that works for me too. So that's me. My email is scottsmith@dallascollege.edu. You can call me at 972-677-8940. With my email, it goes directly to my phone. So normally I'll see it quite quickly. I can't always get to it right away, but I do get them. And then my phone number, if you want to have a conversation, give me a call there. My office is J127. Office hours will be announced. And you can see the number for Information Central, which has general information. That's a good place to start if you have questions. But you also have places, you should do some exploring in eCampus, especially up at the top in the blue ribbon. There's a lot of resources that you have access to. So that's another place to kind of be familiar with. Let's go ahead and move on to the next slide. Oh, let's see if I can do this. Okay, so course information. So this is developmental math. And basically the BASM part is arithmetic review, developmental math part. We'll do mostly algebra, but we'll also do a little bit of probability and statistics. Again, this course is all about trying to get you college ready for whatever college course you're going to take next. But it is 2 courses in one, and you do need to pass both courses in order to move on. And passing is with a C. Okay, so our section number is 22400. This is the spring of 2024. We meet on Monday, Wednesdays from 11 to 12:20, and then 12:30 to 1:50. I normally try to give you a break about halfway through. Our room, of course, is J106. Certification date, we'll talk about that in a little bit. It's January 29th. Last day to withdraw. If for some reason you end up needing to withdraw this course, and I really hope that won't be the case, you have until Friday, April 12th to do that, which is in the 12th week of school. But anyway, it's important that you do it the right way. So I would hope that you would talk to me. Sometimes when I talk to students that are considering dropping, they realize they're really not doing that bad. But you may have to consider things like financial aid. I would encourage you to talk to your success coach. If you're a veteran, talk to Veterans Affairs. But you just want to make sure you make a good decision. And again, you want to make sure you do it the right way. Sometimes students just disappear. They get discouraged. They say, okay, I'm not going to do this college thing. They come back a couple years later when they've gained some new motivation, and they find out they're on academic probation. So again, if you have to drop the course, make sure you do it the right way. Let's go ahead and move on to the next slide. So here it has the description of the BASM course and student learning outcomes. You can look at those if you'd like. I'm not going to cover those. And then here's a description of DMAT0307. So again, you can read that on your own if you'd like. And there's the student learning outcomes for that course. I do want to point out that 0307, the way we teach it currently is the same as the 0305 course. So if you ever see 0305 on some of the papers that we do in class, they're the same course. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next slide. Another thing you'll see on all your syllabi is the Texas Core Objectives. These are the kinds of things we want to see all of our students improve on and leave with these kinds of skills, critical thinking, teamwork, etc. So these are things we try to incorporate where we can. Required course materials. The required materials will be used for both courses. Basically, it's the MyLab Math, and it comes with when you pay tuition for this course. And this is called the Include Ed program. Now, sometimes students have opted out in the past, and all I've ever seen as a result is it ends up causing chaos in the middle of the semester. Suddenly you can't do your homework. So highly recommend that you don't opt out. If you did, you may want to contact the bookstore or whoever, I think it's the bookstore, and let them know you want to opt in. So in this course, we'll use an interactive software called MyLab Math. The old name is My Math Lab, and so you may hear me call it that sometimes. But anyway, it's an online textbook-based software where you're going to be doing all your assignments, or at least the quizzes and the homework. Students must have access to a computer with internet access to complete the required work for this course. So I really hope that you have access to a computer at home, because all your homework and all your quizzes, that's a lot of time you're going to be on the computer. So it's really important to have a computer. I think these days in college, it's pretty much a must-have. So to begin working in MyLab Math, you just go to the homepage in eCampus, and there's a link for MyLab Math. And when you click on that, it'll have some on-screen instructions, and you go from there. There's also a video that I made that's a tour of MyLab Math. And if you watch that, it'll tell you everything you need to know about MyLab Math. Let's move on. The textbook that we're using is described here. Again, that's actually included with MyLab Math. When you're in MyLab Math, under that link, you'll see eText for one of the links. That's where you can get to the textbook. You can also get to the textbook when you're doing homework, and you click on the book link, it'll take you to that chapter of the book. There is one other thing that you do need to buy separate from your tuition, and that's a calculator. So I'm going to be using the TI-30XS Multiview Calculator. It's a great calculator that I highly recommend. The thing that's nice about it is as you type in numbers and operations, like multiplication and division, you see everything that you type in just as it looks on paper. And that's true with complicated looking fractions, which we'll be inputting into the calculator when we get to the financial chapter. So it's really important that you have a good calculator that you can that you know how to use. And this is the one that I recommend. If you have a TI-84 calculator, that'll work. It's just going to be a little bit more difficult to use. It's actually a more powerful calculator. But and if you're going on to college algebra, then that's maybe a better choice. But what I'll be using is the TI-30XS calculator. And by the way, it's not a bad idea to have both. The TI-30XS Multiview calculator is about $20. So it's not nearly as expensive as if you buy a TI-84. All right, let's move on to the next slide. So for graded work for the BASM course, notice it's 15% for homework, 15% for quizzes. Test 1 is 35%, and test 2 is 35%. So basically, your grade after test 2 is determined for the BASM 0053 course. Let's move on to DMAT0307. So this is more typical of a math course, a college-level math course. Your homework's 10%, your quizzes are 10%. The tests are 60%. So there's 6 tests, so they're basically 10% each. And then notice there's a final exam, which is 20% or 1/5 of your grade. So it'll be important at the end of the semester that you can do well on that final exam. So as far as the grading's concerned, it's pretty typical, except for one thing. 90 to 100% is an A, and so on. 70 to 79% is a C. Now, however, notice there's no Ds. With these courses, we do not give Ds. You're either passing with a C or you earn an F. And again, like I said earlier, you need to pass both courses in order to be considered college ready and to move on to the next course. All right. Description of graded work. So let's talk about this in a little bit of detail. So homework will be assigned in MyLab Math to practice the material learned in each section of the textbook. The nice thing about MyLab Math is you're going to do a problem in the computer, you'll put in your answer, it'll tell you if it's right or wrong, and normally you also have access to a detailed solution to the problem. Now, it's going to be a different problem, but it'll be similar. So that's the nice thing. I do want to point out, though, sometimes people treat the program like a computer game where you're just entering information and with minimal writing on the side. I think it's really important that you have a notebook where you do your homework, write the problem down, or at least the basic part of the problem, and show your work. And make notes of problems that you had challenges with or questions on, things you don't want to remember, or just maybe some points that you want to remind yourself of, or like when you review for a quiz or test, things you want to remember. But writing things out is actually part of the learning process for most students. Writing things out helps you to learn. But more than that, you have something to study for those quizzes and for tests. And so that would be my recommendation. Quizzes, they normally cover about 3 or 4 sections. You're going to have 60 minutes to take your quiz. And basically, if you're not doing well on the quizzes, that's an indication that you need to spend more time with the material, that you need to study more. And when you take the quizzes, you have 2 shots at it, and I'll take your best score. Keep in mind that you should try to do it without looking at your homework or other stuff. You should be able to do it from memory. Like, you might maybe do it once with some help and then take it a second time and try to do it without the help, like a paper or your homework right next to you. But like I said, it's going to give you a good idea if you're learning material and if you're going to be able to do those types of problems on the test. So again, there's 6 tests. Speaking of tests, now notice tests may only be taken once, and they'll be completed on paper in class. Final exam is comprehensive, and it's going to be completed in class. You'll have 2 hours to take it. Let's go ahead and move on. Late work policy. Homework or quizzes should be completed by the due dates on the course schedule and in MyLab Math. Late assignments will receive a 25% deduction. So even if it's late, you could get up to 75% on the homework. One of the things I always tell students is if you're willing to go back and correct mistakes and you're doing your homework on time, you should get 100% because you can redo the problems you miss. So at the very least, even if you do them late, you should get a 75%. I do want to say, though, if you were asking me what should I do if I want to pass this course, I think one of the most important things is to get your homework done on time. It's very important and will make a big difference. If you can have that discipline and get the homework done on time, it's going to make a big difference for you. Instructor-student communication. So anytime you need to get a hold of me, please don't hesitate. You just make sure that you use your student email. It's the one that starts with an E and then 7 numbers. The other thing is, don't forget, you can also call me at this number here. So normally if you have a quick question, students will email me. If you send me an email, please list our class number. But if you want to have a conversation, call my number. But I'm I'm quite available, and I'm here to help wherever I can. The nice thing is we're also meeting 3 hours twice a week, so you can certainly ask your questions during class. Let's move on. Attendance and participation. So notice in order to be considered or to be certified as attending for the first 2 weeks, you must attend at least once, and you must start working on assignments in MyLab Math. Now notice that's a very low bar. It doesn't take much to be certified as attending. But however, failure to be certified would affect your financial aid if you're getting financial aid. Keep in mind this is the minimum requirement though. In order to be on schedule, notice on the calendar that you should be done with homework 2.4, everything up to 2.4 by Sunday, January 28th. And that's with an average score of 70%. And so that's what I would call getting off to a good start. In fact, really, if you want to get off to a very good start, try to get at least an 80% on your assignments. Excuse me. I haven't gotten to it, or maybe I missed it. But if you maintain an average of 80% on the homework, then I'm going to drop your lowest test score. Remember, there's 6. All right, institutional policies. If you haven't read those before, you should look or click on the link in eCampus on the syllabus, and it'll take you there. It talks about things like tutoring and disability services, repeating classes, and so on. So you want to be familiar with the policies. And I think that's about it. If there's any kind of changes, I'll let you know, just depending on circumstances. We've already had a missed day this semester, so you should have gotten information through the email for that. Let's go ahead and look at the schedule. So this is our course calendar. It's at the very back of the syllabus. Excuse me. So here's our calendar. Notice week 1, we're supposed to get everything done by Sunday, 1/21, January 21st. Now, we only got up to here, and so 5.1, I'm actually moving to the next week. Normally, though, I stay pretty close to the calendar. I already had to adjust it some just because we only met once the first week. So it's going to be a little bit tight for the first 2 or 3 weeks. I'll be playing a little bit of catch-up, but we should be able to get caught up pretty well. But you can see what's going on each week, and if there's any kind of adjustments, I'll let you know. But the other thing is you'll see the due dates in MyLab Math, and you can see the due dates here. The notice our first test is going to be in week 4 on February the 7th. All right, so that's all I have to say about the syllabus. Please let me know if you have any questions. I hope that was helpful.